All right, so diving in, I think Steve did a great job covering the agenda. I'll go a little bit deeper on it. So what we'll do to kick off, I'll share more of a formal introduction on myself so you can all get to know me better. I'll share details about my co-host Danielle Ross as well, and give a brief overview of Forma. Next, we'll spend time talking about the state of the market. So how that's been impacting employees and employers' benefit strategies. We'll dive into what a lifestyle spending account is. So LSA 101, this is a really newer benefit in the market. So we want to help make sure everyone on the phone today really understands how the setup works and why they are becoming so increasingly more popular. We will then next review Forma's 2024 benchmark report. So I'm beyond excited to share some of these benchmarking data points that we put together for everyone. This includes details around the types of spending accounts we most frequently set up, the typical account funding, how much of the budget generally gets utilized, as well as other fund program details, features, and insights we've pulled from our book of business. We will wrap up with some of our lifestyle spending account success stories and transition to a Q&A. So like I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, please leverage that QA feature. My co-host Danielle may come off mute from time to interrupt me to make sure we're getting your questions answered. All right, so kicking off, like Steve mentioned, my name is Megan Burns. I focus on benefit strategy and solution consulting at Forma. So really that just means I get to work with innovative companies who are looking to think creatively about their total rewards and benefit programs. I get to learn about their employers' benefit goals, some of their initiatives, any past challenges, so I can help recommend scalable benefit solutions that not only solve pain points, but also provide employees with a highly valued benefit and experience. And so I have been in the benefits industry for over 10 years now. Like Steve mentioned, prior to joining Forma, I was on the broker consulting side, focusing on renewal strategies, overall employee engagement, administration, and everyone's favorite topic, compliance. So I am very passionate about health and wellness, learning new benefit trends, and then really being able to support the people that are close to me, that I provide direction to. So my goal for today is really just to be a resource for everyone on this call. Share some data, review some metrics, answer your questions about lifestyle spending accounts. So with that, I think we can go ahead and get started. Or actually quickly, let me share a little bit more about Danielle Ross as well. So Danielle Ross is our Director of Product Marketing, and I did not want to skip her introduction because she is who we have to thank for this amazing 2024 benchmark report. So she was able to pull all of the data together and will be helping me out with the presentation today. So, all right. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with who Forma is, we are the market leader in the lifestyle spending account space. So we are headquartered out of California, and we've been supporting our customers and customizable spending accounts since 2017. You can see from this slide, we work with some amazing companies. We absolutely would not be able to support these types of companies if we didn't have a truly intuitive product and provide a world-class employer and employee experience. And so today we support over 280 companies. There are 450,000 employees in over 110 different countries. So like I mentioned earlier, lifestyle spending accounts, it is a newer benefit in the industry. So I really love this slide because it lays out all of the different types of customizable spending accounts we typically put in place to really just give you a visual of what we're speaking about. I will call out, because our platform is so customizable, this is in no way encompassing of everything we do, but again, gives you an idea of the popular programs. That includes the general lifestyle spending account, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today, accounts focused on wellness, accounts focused on work from home, learning and development, tuition reimbursement, and more. At Forma, we also support those United States-based spending accounts as well. So your pre-tax programs like your health reimbursement arrangement, health savings account, flexible spending account, and commuter. So kicking off with the state of the market. So I think this is going to be no surprise to anyone on the webinar today. The cost of offering employee benefits continues to increase year over year. Employers, so our benefit leaders, our total compensation leaders, are being asked to make sure their spend is really efficient and to find savings wherever they can, especially since the cost of healthcare continues to drive up overall budget. Inflation is also impacting employees directly as well. So short-term financial security is the #1 concern for employees today. This is because of stress related to financial security around the increased cost of living. So expenses like groceries, rent, childcare, employees' own compounding financial debt, along with rising healthcare costs. So this type of stress is impacting both workplace productivity and also makes employees more likely to explore alternative positions outside of your organization, directly impacting your overall retention. Historically, the response to reported employee challenges, like the financial wellness, which we just spoke about, was to look for individual point solutions. Employers implemented programs and now are offering upwards of 15 perk and well-being solutions. So the emerging problem with this approach is at an employee level, generally with this many point solutions in place, employees can get confused. They don't necessarily know where to go for what type of support. The navigation is challenging. And then this creates some sort of decision paralysis. So then they take no action and they do nothing. These types of point solutions, too, are typically not meeting the needs of your full population. They generally meet the needs of a few. And so this and having so many point solutions in place really ultimately leads to low engagement across your different benefit programs. Low engagement then leads to a low appreciation of your benefits program. And then generally what I hear from employers is they need to rethink how they're distributing costs. At an employer level, the challenges include having to administer multiple point solutions year over year. So manage multiple implementations, new contracting, multiple vendors, contacts, annual renewals, having different service standards vendor by vendor. And so while the original intention for putting these point solutions in place was really positive, it was good, the actual administration of it has proven to be pretty challenging. Benefit teams are being asked to figure out how to do more with less and are really struggling to keep up with the administrative impact and the overall cost of these programs. And so, like I mentioned, what I'm hearing a lot, especially from total comp and benefits leaders, is they're being asked to relook at the programs they have in place today, what their direct costs are, what the costs are to administer, if employees appreciate and use the benefits, and then come to the table with alternative options if not, with the goal of overall financial savings so that they can have opportunities to repurpose budget in other areas. All right, so that is really where lifestyle spending accounts can come in and be that solution for your organization. Before we talk through why they are becoming increasingly more popular, though, I do want to spend a few minutes just sharing what a lifestyle spending account is and how the programs work. So a lifestyle spending account is really just a customizable spending account that you, as the employer, you get to design and fund. Then the employee gets to choose how to spend those funds within the program parameters that you've set. And so you can think of it like a flexible spending account or FSA. But instead of the IRS setting the limits and deciding what's eligible, you as the employer, you get to think through that and make those decisions based on your company goals, what you're trying to achieve. And then you can design a program that helps you realize those goals.
Megan, there were two quick questions that came through the chat that I wanted to address. One, somebody was asking, is this only available in the US?
Great question. So no, we are a global company. We are live in over 110 countries today. So definitely a global benefit.
Okay, and then I think as well, lifestyle spending accounts can be administered to folks around the world. So that's just something to keep in mind, and we'll touch on that a little later. And then another question from Lori was just about if we administer COBRA benefits, and that we do. So I'll just quickly answer that one. The answer is yes.
Great, great. Thanks, Danielle. All right. So what else about lifestyle spending accounts? So they do not have to be called lifestyle spending accounts. In the market, sometimes I hear them referred to as flexible benefits, stipend, customizable spending accounts, employer-sponsored dollars. I've even heard adaptive benefits. And so really, these are just those customizable programs, and you can brand them or call them anything you'd like. If a program, let's say, is more focused on promoting wellness, it could potentially include only eligible items that support employees' wellness, however you define wellness. If you have a goal to support caregiving, you can design a customizable spending account to support that, so on and so forth. So let's say that you have a goal in mind to support your employees' overall wellness. Let's say that your wellness pillars include financial, physical, emotional, and so you want to make sure those are eligible categories under this type of program. And then the budget you have in place allows you to give employees access to $50 a month. And so that could be the program that you design. Once that's set in place, though, the employee then gets to decide how to spend that $50. So within those program parameters, like I mentioned, those categories, those pillars, they may choose to spend that $50 on a local gym membership or purchasing a bicycle or running shoes because they like to be outdoors. They may decide to hire a financial planner because they are financially stressed and want to look for different alternatives to relieving that stress. So really, the power in these programs is employee flexibility and choice. Since employees can choose how to spend their money, there's always something valuable for every employee to use those dollars on, and then no one is left out.
I
Oh,
wanted to just pull in, oops, sorry, go ahead, Megan.
no, I was going to say, so with Forma, employees can also choose to make purchases using multiple spending methods. So just like they have the flexibility of choice to spend within their program parameters, they also have the flexibility of choice to choose how to spend their money. And so we offer a Visa-powered debit card. We offer a discounted store that has over 250 vendors. And then we have the traditional reimbursement method if an employee, let's say, pays out of pocket and wants to submit to us directly. And so last thing I'll say, Danielle, and then I'll let you jump in. At the employer level, you also get to decide which of those three spending methods we turn on or off by account. So you can choose to turn all three of them on. You can pick and choose to turn some on or off. So Danielle, I'd love to hear from you. What was the question that came in?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So Heather asked a question just around best practices related to reimbursement. So I think we covered that one. There are some questions about taxability. So I thought we could take a moment to speak to that since I know this is a common question we get. Annette was just wondering about sort of the taxability with respect to employees as well as the employer.
Yep, really great questions. So yes, probably taxability is the number one question we get when we're setting up these programs. And so I will caveat my response by saying it's case by case as well as country by country. But for the most part, lifestyle spending accounts are generally considered taxable. And so what that means is as the employees use their dollars, whatever they've spent is generally treated as taxable income. And so at Forma, during implementation, we would always pre-configure the accounts with you based on the taxability. That way, as employees are spending their dollars on the back end, you are getting reports related to if that spend should be considered taxable or not. Certain types of accounts have tax advantages. Certain countries have tax advantages. So it is really variable, but we can help support you on how to set up these programs and what the best practices are.
Okay, great. Thank you for addressing that question.
Yeah. All right. These are great questions so far. Thank you. Keep them coming. So the next section I want to talk through is why lifestyle spending accounts are becoming increasingly more popular. And so why are 70 70% of employers considering adding a lifestyle spending account now. Why will 13% of companies have them in place by 2024, and a projected 43% of companies to have them in place by the end of 2025? So really it's twofold. So again, at an employer level, it typically comes down to cost savings, putting programs in place that employees love, increasing the overall perception of their benefits package and impacting attraction and retention goals, improving employees' health and wellness by dedicating funds directly to an account, supporting companies' DE&I goals, as well as global equity goals, being able to consolidate vendors, internal processes and systems, which leads to saving administrative time and making the employee navigation easier, and then being able to customize programs country by country as well as needed. And so the cost savings we're talking about, it is both a direct financial ROI as well as an indirect ROI. And so what we mean by that are real dollar savings by moving programs to Forma versus maybe not as real dollars as savings, but administrative time back, things like that would fall into that indirect category. And so you can see a couple of different case studies on the right. For example, we saved a mid-sized client over $500,000 just in the first 6 months after they moved to Forma. The reason we were able to save them money is we transitioned some in-house programs that they had to our platform. When we initially engaged with them, what they did not realize was just how costly and expensive their expense software was. This type of tool typically sits outside of benefits. So how much they were being charged really wasn't rolling up into the benefits budget. But when we were able to look into this, realize there were significant savings, we worked cross-functionally across a number of different teams to realize what that amount would look like. And so this particular client, they did choose to reimburse for gym, home office expenses like internet, cell phone, and other wellness items. Multiple customers of ours too have also reported savings, like I mentioned, as it relates to administrative time back. So internally reducing call volume and benefit tickets, which creates more time for them to spend on value drivers for their organization. And so all of these examples are really meaningful improvements where you can then have dollars that go back into your overall benefits budget. In terms of supporting global populations, lifestyle spending accounts are desirable because they can provide global equity across benefit programs or help solve different challenges and address needs country by country. And so because these programs are easily launched, the platform is agile, employers have choice on what launch strategy is best for them. So if you have a budget and you can start everyone at once, that is wonderful. If for any reason you don't have a budget to provide the benefit to everyone at once, just know we have had certain customers roll out a country by country strategy. Some customers too end up choosing this type of approach, even if they want to start in the US initially, knowing that long term, they want to roll these programs out globally. And these are benefits that are easily adaptable for the global community. So going back, the other option, the other reason these are becoming increasingly more popular is at the employee level. At the employee level, it's really about choice. So employees value and appreciate choice as it relates to their benefits. Each employee is unique. We all know this in terms of what they ask for, what types of benefit programs best support them. Employers are more diverse and dispersed than ever before too. There are 5 different generations in the workforce, and the most efficient way to meet their unique needs is to provide them with choice and give them benefit dollars that they can then use towards what matters most to them. But let's go ahead and spend some time digging into the data around how much employees appreciate choice. So Radford did run a conjoint analysis, which identified employees' most appreciated benefit programs across 17 different options. And so these options did not include core benefits. They did include ancillary coverages, different perk programs, and wellness benefits. And so the survey concluded that employees ranked a 401k match as their number one most appreciated and valued benefit program. But a close second was a lifestyle spending account. So it did come in at number 2 across the 17 different programs surveyed and had less than a 0.1 differential in the ranking. So this analysis really emphasizes to us, again, the overall financial well-being for employees is important. Also, employee flexibility and choice is too, as it relates to benefits. We were able to figure this out because employees actually ranked less dollars given to them in an LSA as having higher value than more dollars put into a program that's specifically designed with strict parameters and less choice. And so we constantly hear feedback directly from our members, our employees that we support through different reviews, LinkedIn posts, and from our own customers who run their own annual benefit surveys, that Forma is one of the most appreciated benefit programs that they have.
Megan, I wanted to just interrupt you quickly right here. There are so many good questions coming through the chat. I wanted just to have you address 2 of them. One is somebody asking, do you see companies scaling back on these type of benefits in the current economic climate with things like layoffs and rising interest rates, et cetera? So maybe if you can tackle that one first.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we do have a slide that kind of goes over a portion of that. So with the economic climate, we have had some organizations scale back on the amount that they're providing employees. We've also had organizations scale back on different benefit programs and actually increase the dollar value they're giving to employees because of inflation. So it is really variable. I will say that that is a big part of my job, trying to find those benefit dollars that can be repurposed. So as it relates to unique employers, if that's a goal of yours to look for budget to fund these programs, we can definitely partner on that. Fun fact that's not in this deck, 76% of our current customers actually use pre-existing budget that they have already to fund their lifestyle spending accounts. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's super important to think about the different ways that you can pull budget for this type of program. Another more tactical question is just asking from someone around types of accounts. They asked if items like tuition reimbursement or transit and parking reimbursement can they be provided in the same type of account, or do you advise that you have separate accounts for items that can be provided pre-tax to employees? What's the best practice here?
Yes, yes. And this is one of my favorite questions. And so I will try to simplify it as much as possible. So the short answer is yes, you can always include tuition reimbursement, ongoing education, commuter in a broad lifestyle spending account to support choice. When you do that, best practice is generally to treat it as taxable income for the US. Alternatively, if you want to carve out a dollar amount specific to those types of programs, so have tuition reimbursement, 5250 is a popular amount employers give because that's what the IRS in the United States allows for it to be tax advantaged. You can carve out that program. The reason it needs to be a separate program in order to be tax advantaged is because the IRS does have certain parameters in place regarding who's eligible to participate in the program, what is eligible for reimbursement, and then plan document requirements. And so we would help support you on that if you wanted to create that specific program. I do have some stats related to funding and utilization of budget that we'll review here shortly. And then the commuter program, so your pre-tax US traditional transit and parking, typically that needs to be its own benefit. You can include an employer subsidy that's either tax-free or taxable, depending on your preferences. But you wouldn't generally include that in a broad lifestyle spending account and treat it as tax-free. So there are if and or buts to that statement. Like I said, taxability varies country by country, but that's a broad response to your question. I'm assuming you're in the US based on the tuition reimbursement. So.
Perfect. Well, let's dive into the data then.
Okay, perfect. So A little bit about our benchmark report. Danielle, I don't want to steal her thunder, but she did an amazing job working with our data analytics team and myself to look at our book of business, where we were able to pull data and metrics from over 200 companies and 450,000 members as of December 2023. And so the data we're reviewing with you all today is really just a fraction of what the report will release. But I think it's going to have the most important insights and the most frequently asked questions that we get. So just know everything we're reviewing is based off of our broad book of business. We can also provide benchmarking that is industry specific or customer size specific as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and dive right in. So to kick off, our most popular type of account, probably no surprise for everyone on the phone today, is that broad, all-inclusive lifestyle spending account. The reason a lot of employers decide to lean into this broad account approach is because it gives employees that ultimate choice. What I'm hearing a lot of employers say too is as they lean into their DEI goals, they want to lean into that flexibility of choice where everyone gets the same dollar value, the same dollar amount, and then they get to choose on how to spend that money. So the next most popular type of account that we set up is specifically designed to help support employees' fitness and wellness. And so this type of program has stricter parameters and most frequently only reimburses for categories like gym memberships, fitness activities, fitness classes, accessories, and programs that support nutrition. Some organizations expand it to also include emotional wellness, financial wellness, family wellness, depending on what their wellness pillars are. Medical travel is another popular program. So this type of account technically runs through an HRA in the US, so not a lifestyle spending account, since it's medical in nature. We also support employers who choose to reimburse employees for business expenses. So a home office setup account is incredibly popular, as well as an ongoing work from home or productivity account that reimburses for cell phone, internet, home office supplies, things of that nature. I will say the ongoing work from home account is becoming increasingly more popular, especially as many states are requiring that if you have remote or hybrid populations, that you have to reimburse for a reasonable amount. So that's something we've been able to take off the plates of many organizations who really just want to stay compliant and have that program in place. So tuition reimbursement came up earlier. So accounts designed to support professional development, ongoing education, student loan repayment are also really popular. Like you shared in your question, they can be set up as tax advantaged. I won't go through the whole list, but you can see a breakdown of the other types of popular programs we set up. I'll call out that these are all customizable spending accounts, so commuter especially. This data set is not around any US pre-tax programs. So caregiving as well, it's not specific to a dependent care FSA, it's specific to a caregiving stipend that organizations put into place. So we included this slide, really interesting because we were able to pull data year over year to show popular program growth. So one of the questions that came through was asking about the environment right now and what we're seeing related to trends. And so I think you'll like this slide. What you can see is meals and nutrition was our fastest growing wallet year over year. And so organizations potentially decided to include meal food delivery as a part of their lifestyle spending account. We saw a lot of companies choose to add in food as an eligible expense. We saw other companies choose to set up different accounts specific to meals and nutrition to really help offset the costs for their employees due to inflation. Let's see. The last thing I'll say about meals and nutrition too is outside of the US, there are a lot of countries that require meal stipends. Meal stipends, meal reimbursements, the compliance and the requirements vary country by country. And so a lot of our US companies who maybe have had growth globally or companies that started globally and then grew into new countries, we saw an uptick of that type of account in order to meet the needs of their growing workforce. Rewards and rec grew as well. And so I believe the reason this is a top two benefit is because employers really resonate with system and vendor consolidation. So maybe they started with Forma year one with a lifestyle spending account or a wellness account, and then year two, year three added in or consolidated their rewards and rec. And so as it relates to rewards and recognition, you can think of service awards, work anniversaries, birthdays, holiday gifts was a popular one at year end. So we can administer for those types of programs. Let's see, so three, four, five, I'll sort of group together. So these are all specific to an employee's own health. So medical travel, supplemental health, gender affirming care. So we did see an uptick of those programs. I think it's incredibly interesting. A lot of these programs are put through an HRA, really to help, I guess, distribute or redistribute costs and budget for their programs. And so with the supplemental health program, especially too, a lot of organizations we support, they have global equity goals. And so we had one customer who had a population outside the United States. They sit in Mexico. What they learned was that their insurance in Mexico did not cover annual wellness checks or annual physicals. And so they did implement an account specific to their Mexican employees so that they could be reimbursed for having that coverage. That would then give them more equitable healthcare compared to their US peers. Professional development, education assistance. I talk about this all the time with different organizations. It's no surprise to me. It's one of our fastest growing accounts. The most common thing I hear from organization to organization is we have attraction and retention problems. We want to be able to upskill our current population so they stay with us longer and can fill roles. And so we can set those up. I would say it's a very trendy benefit. And then the last one I'll call out here that I find pretty interesting is commuter assistance. So again, this is not your traditional US parking transit account. This goes above and beyond what the IRS in the US allows, as well as meets some of the requirements country by country if there are commuter requirements like bicycle stipends. And so we've seen an uptick in these accounts, especially as organizations have return to office initiatives or their own micro mobility needs. So those were some fun data points.
Megan, one quick question, just going back to some of the medical related accounts. Somebody asked, does the account, I think they meant for medical travel, include things such as gender dysmorphia services and complex medical conditions?
Yes, so it can. So I would say medical travel most frequently is designed to support the travel for those types of medical needs. If those types of medical coverages are included in your medical program, they're usually left out. But what some of the customers we support find is that employees that they have in different areas don't have the same access to healthcare. So they want to provide a travel stipend so they can use the funds to travel to an area to receive that care. So a lot of times, while the actual procedures aren't covered under medical travel, that type of procedure is considered eligible for travel. You can include it as well, but again, most oftentimes that's through the organization's health insurance unless it's excluded. Separate HRAs, if you're in the United States specifically, we could do gender affirming HRAs, fertility HRAs, procedure HRAs, or the traditional HRAs that align with your employees' out-of-pocket costs and deductibles.
Right. They're very flexible from what I know
Yeah.
we've talked about before.
Yeah,
Great.
super flexible. Yeah. All right, well, I'll keep going, but you interrupt me again if there's more questions. So the slide we are on now, so this is funding by account type. So we've already covered the types of accounts that we set up most frequently. I'm sure you're all wondering now, all right, that's great. How much do employers typically budget for these? And so, like I mentioned earlier, the data on this slide is across our entire book of business. We can always pull data points that are more specific to your industry or your size, but it gives you a great idea of what the typical funding per type of account is. And so up at the top, you'll have that all-inclusive or broad lifestyle spending account. It's funded at roughly $970 US annually, or $80 per month. So this did increase from last year. Last year, our data showed roughly $900 or $75 per month. So it did increase. I will say too, everything we're covering today is in USD, but at an employee level, they're always going to see the funds in their own currency. We can do straight currency conversions, or we can apply different COLA philosophies, depending on your preferences. So the fitness and wellness, typically we see the funding at $600 annually, which is about $50 per month. And then I'll call out work from home, which typically reimburses for cell phone, internet, roughly $600 annually or about $55 monthly to cover those costs.
Sorry, Megan, one other question related to this. Arlene was asking about the ranges of LSA amounts. I know we have the median here. Maybe you can speak to a bit on the ranges that we see.
Yeah, it's a great question. We have one slide on the ranges specific to fitness and wellness we can come back to. I think that'll give you a good visual of what we do see. And then what I can tell you too is once the full benchmark report is released, the detail in that report includes ranges by account category as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. All right, so this next slide. So the last slide, what you were able to look at is what we typically see funding per employee per year. This slide is really interesting because it shows what amount is spent based on the dollars that go into the account. And so for lifestyle spending accounts and HRAs, the funds are all notional. And so that means it's make-believe money. It really doesn't exist until the employee uses it. And so while they log into their Forma portal, they see and can access the funds. We don't actually charge the employers on the front end. We charge you on the back end. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But the reason I like to frame this slide with that is because you can see that across the different accounts, you're never going to use 100% of your budget. This is important because it helps you better predict for your financial team. It helps you better predict what your spend is going to be in any given year, so you can reallocate budget in other areas. So right at the top, the broad or all-inclusive lifestyle spending account, it has the highest percentage of spend. And so that is because it is the most broad account in nature. Employees have more choices. Generally, each employee is going to find a reason or a need to spend their dollars. The stricter you get with the program parameters or your policy, the less utilization you typically see. So right below it, an account focused on fitness and wellness, that drops to 73% utilization of budget. An account focused on professional development, that drops to 35% because there's stricter parameters, stricter eligibility in terms of how our companies typically set them up. So I think what's important to note too is regardless of the type of account you set up, like I mentioned, you'll never see 100% of the budget of the utilization spent. So many companies who move to Forma, maybe they have some sort of stipend in place today that they're putting directly through payroll. When you think about putting a stipend through payroll, automatically that's 100% of your budget spent, it's out the door. Those funds go directly into an employee's paycheck. And you have no data points on how they're spending those dollars or if they're even using them for their intended purposes. What you also find with employees where you put it directly through payroll is a low appreciation because they don't think of it as a benefit. They think of it as additional income. And so when they take their annual surveys, they may share that their wellness or their gym reimbursement needs aren't really being met. All right, so the last thing I'll say on this slide is while you're looking at budget utilization, this is specific to the financials, Forma does see an upwards of 85% engagement from the customers that we support. And so the way we define engagement really is if the member logs in at least once per month and uses a portion of their benefit. And so most organizations we support have 2 to 3 benefits in place with us. And so they may be using a larger portion of their lifestyle spending account than they're using on, let's say, their professional development account. And so that's why the engagement percentage varies from what the actual budget utilization is. So in terms of funding strategies, so this is the next question I get. I'm wondering how many of you are thinking this. So how often are funds provided to the employee? And so at Forma, you can set up these accounts to be provided to employees on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, semi-annual, annual, or one time. And so a lot of questions I get too are around, if I set these up, should I allow for rollover month over month, year over year? Very common question. And so what you're seeing here is best practice by account type. And so you can see by far the most common way to fund these accounts are on an annual basis, and generally accounts that are funded on an annual basis, meaning the dollars are provided up front, do not allow for rollover. So the budget does not roll over, or unspent funds do not roll over year standardly. They can, we can configure for that. That's not super common. In a very close second, we do have the monthly accounts. And so accounts that are funded on a monthly basis, again, they can be set up as to roll over month, or to be set up as use it or lose it. Of the accounts that are funded on the monthly basis, 71% allow for rollover month over month, but also cap it off at the end of the year. And so that means 29%, really the dollar amount is set up to be applied as month over month, use it or lose it. I won't go through the rest, but you can definitely review these through the report. The last thing I'll say here is that one-time accounts, the strategy behind that, we typically see one-time account funding for your rewards and your recognition, not typically a lifestyle spending account or a wellness-related account. And so that's typically more for those service awards, like I mentioned, anniversaries, birthdays, holiday gifts, things of that nature. So it is very common for one-time accounts to roll over year. All right, so this slide is really interesting. I'll try to get through it pretty quickly, but it gives you some ideas on how clients will leverage the platform to create spending accounts that have a large impact on employee appreciation for little impact on overall budget. And so you can see a couple examples here. One client put an additional $50 in their South African employees' accounts to help with productivity during a large power outage. We were able to accommodate that really quickly. Another client of ours implemented a new baby bonus account that gave their employees $200 to use on anything from parental coaching, baby accessories, even meals, to really help welcome their new family member, make the employee feel appreciated. One creative customer was looking to improve employee belonging and connection, which again, we all know helps with overall retention. They gave their new hires onboarding buddies $10 each to treat their new hire on their first day of work. Forma, we are entirely remote. I personally get $30 a month, use it or lose it, to use to get a virtual coffee with my peers or lunch with Danielle if we're scrubbing through a data report. So, and then lastly, the last example, one of our customers who has a Japanese population found out that their Japanese population didn't have coverage for flu vaccines. Again, they were able to create an account that provided more global parity on this, but also helped to make sure that their population was getting their flu shots, staying healthy, keeping up with productivity. So
Megan, I thought a question that was interesting that came in was from an anonymous folk, but they were asking, with so many solutions proliferating, what combination of corporate leaders makes decisions on what's in and what's out? Is it HR, total rewards, CFOs? I thought that was an interesting question that you might want to touch on.
Yeah. I would say in my experience, it really varies company by company. And so I think of the person as the decision maker for benefits. Sometimes we'll have initial conversations with the benefits manager. Sometimes it's a total comp leader. Sometimes it is the CFO. And so really from company to company at a company level, who's ever in charge of driving that benefit strategy, or maybe even has a passion to drive the benefit strategy or look for savings, usually engages with us initially for those conversations. And then as we work with that initial contact, we learn a little bit more about their internal approval process, who we also need to present to, provide financials to, things of that nature. So I wish it was an easier question to answer, but I think organizations are just so unique. It's best to get to know them, what their unique needs are, what their decision-making process and budgeting processes look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I will
Yeah.
let you carry on. Thanks for letting me interrupt.
Okay, great. And I'm going to be really quick on these next few slides. So we are coming to an end, but this was the slide I mentioned that came through the chat. So it gives you an overview of what we typically see as a minimum annual funding for a fitness wellness account all the way up to the max. So you can see we do have one customer who's giving their employees close to $4,700 a year. So it is variable. A big part of the reason we use the median and not the average to provide benchmarking is so that the amount dollar isn't skewed for you. Really, we want to give you the most frequently requested benefit funding per account. And then also you'll have access to this deck. You can look at the different types of most popular categories that fall under the fitness and wellness account. No surprise, fitness activities, digital health, well-being services. With Forma, I mentioned this earlier, but we have over 250 vendors globally in our store. So that is one option for spending that the employee can choose to use. The reason I bring it up as it relates to fitness and wellness is because there's over 600 products and vendors that fall under that category. And so we are able to, again, make it easier for employees to stay healthy, but also save them money. So of the members that shopped through our store, over time, we have saved them over 1.8 million by leveraging these discounts. So the way I think about it is you're providing the employees with a dollar figure, and then they're actually getting more out of it by shopping through our store because they're leveraging those discounts. Great. And then last but not least, I wanted to share a fun case study. So Lululemon is a customer of ours. They do have a fitness and wellness program with us specifically. And so over 29,000 employees across 17 different countries. They originally came to us because they were looking for a solve in order to provide a program to their employees globally that wasn't administratively challenging. And so we were able to do this for them. They do have a 96% customer satisfaction, an 83 employee engagement rate, and they have a really great Josh Bershen story where they shared how they created a healthier population and saved on their overall medical costs. So definitely encourage you all to take a peek at that if you have time. Yeah. So I think we were going to do a quick product demo if we had time. We don't. What we can do is send you reminders on when our upcoming product demos are. I do want to transition over to the Q&A to wrap things up so we get you out of here right on time.
Yeah, that sounds great, Megan. So maybe you can take a second just to check out the questions that have come through, and I can take a minute just to answer one of them. Leslie, I know a question that you had asked was, can you specify the level of employee that has access to these programs, and is that a common approach? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Who's eligible? I think it depends, once again, on what the employer is really looking to do with their program. These can be programs that are administered to full-time employees, part-time employees, some semblance of both. Additionally, it can be a program that you administer to different levels too. I think generally companies like to administer these benefits to everyone just to ensure that the benefits are, equitable and accessible to everyone out there. So, it truly just depends upon what the company is looking to do. And I'll just mention a couple of other just sort of wrap-up items here, and then we can jump to answering more of the questions. So first of all, on the left side here, I wanted to announce that we are launching our flexible benefits benchmark survey today. So this is the first day that you can access the survey. And the survey just asks questions around how you set up your perks and wellness programs today. We're really using the information here, and your answers will be kept confidential, of course, in order for us to understand sort of the state of the market as we head into this year. And so if you take the survey, which you can do so using the QR code, we'll also be sending you an email tomorrow with a link. You can be entered for a chance to win a $50 gift card, and then we'll also give you access to the report that's complimentary after it's completed in a couple of months. Secondly, wanted to mention that all of the benchmark data that we covered here today is a lot to digest, we understand. And so there's even more data that we have available. So we'll be sending you a link to a copy of the report so you can, browse it at any point and, follow up with us too if you have questions on specific areas or want to hear recommendations for how to apply the best practices to your situation. And then on the right side here, just to mention, I know we don't have a chance to go into our product today. That's absolutely okay because we will have time to jump into it in our next product demo, which we'll be sending out details to you about in the coming weeks. So you can look forward to sort of getting some of these questions about our platform answered. And then finally, Megan's contact information is here. So I know she's a very, very friendly contact. So please feel free to reach out to her directly and she can always answer questions that you have. But with that, I know we have about 5 minutes left, so maybe we can address some of the questions I've come through. Megan, is there a favorite that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of love to go through them all and then you cut me off if we don't have time. And then what we can do is reach out to the rest of you to answer any of the questions we didn't get to. So if you did ask anonymously and you want to make sure we get to you, feel free to throw your name in the chat. But Michael asked, can normal expenses be covered under the HSA and FSA be covered under an LSA? So also a longer answer here, but the short answer is generally no. It's not best practice to include any medical expenses under the LSA. If the goal is to reimburse for medical expenses, we can always set that up for US populations in an HRA. That's best practice. And then this answer is specific to US populations. There are some edge eligible items where in the HSA or FSA, you need a letter of medical necessity for it to be eligible, that we can include, no problem, but happy to have a longer conversation on that. Another question, what happens to unspent dollars? Does it go back to the employer pool? Really great question. So because the funds are notional, we actually are not pulling that from you on the front end. And so as the employees spend their money, that's typically when we ACH you. So there's not going to be any forfeitures related to these types of accounts. Yes. So how do the funds work if we have employees located in international locations? Is the $50 an example converted to local currency? The answer is yes. So employees in international locations outside of the US, they will always see the dollar figure in their own currency. So we can apply a direct currency conversion, or if you'd like, we can provide a cost of living adjustment. There's 3 different philosophies out there. So depending on the type of account, we can make recommendations. And yeah, I think that answers that question. How does the card recognize eligible or ineligible purchases? So our card, very similar to an FSA or an HSA card, it leverages MCC or merchant category codes as well as BIN numbers in order to identify what's considered eligible or not at point of sale. And so during onboarding, what we do is based on the categories, the items you want to implement, on the back end, those are actually tied to the MCC codes we have configured for the card. And so depending on what you want to make eligible, we can customize that card.
Okay, I know we're almost at time, so maybe 2 more questions.
Okay, great. Are employees taxed as they're using the funds or all at once towards the end of the year? What we will typically do is discuss what your preferences are during implementation. And so most employers we partner with choose to have the report provided to them on a monthly basis, but we can really accommodate any cadence. Then typically what I hear is it's up to your payroll team's preferences to best determine how to apply that taxability. What I will say is from the conversations I've had, the payroll teams are usually pretty specific about what their preferences are. So as long as we're providing you the data, we can get it to you as frequently as you'd like. Then your payroll team will typically work that into one of their processes. Let's see. Oh, how do employees ask questions about both your platform and offering? Can they do it via chat or talking to humans? Great questions. So we are a global company as well. We have employees sitting all over the world. And because of that, we're able to support our customers 24/7. And so most members reach out to us via the in-app chat. that they have available, but they can also reach out to our support team via email. And depending on the customer size, we can also set up phone.
All right, I think I have to stop us there.
I
Unfortunately,
know.
there's so many good questions. Maybe I'll just answer one more as a bonus. Somebody asked, do any of the vendors in your reward options offer experiences versus retail items? The answer is yes. I know one of the vendors that we recently have a partnership with is Masterclass. And so, just as example, you could take a class from Oprah Winfrey or Gordon Ramsay if your employees want to choose. But I'll turn it over to you, Steve. Thanks so much for having us today. We really enjoyed the discussion and questions from the group.
Well, likewise, thank you, Megan and Danielle. It was a really thorough but clear presentation, and we really appreciate your expertise in this growing landscape of benefits. So thanks also to Forma for their support, and to all of you in the audience who participated today and asked such thoughtful questions. You'll receive your professional development credits in the mail via email in about 24 hours, as well as links to the video and the benchmark report. Now, before you all sign off, I'm going to drop the link again to some complimentary VIP tickets for our virtual conference coming up later this month, February 14th. That one's about getting to the next stage of diversity and belonging. So on behalf of all my colleagues at From Day One, thanks for participating. Stay well. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.